Hey folks, so this is my laminated, that's what it's called, yeasted puff pastry for croissant. And after, I think you do the first turn, which puts a fold and a fold over the butter. That doesn't count as a lamination. And then you roll this short side out, fold like a business letter. That gives you your first lamination, and then you have 3. Then you turn it, roll it out, and you do that 5 more times. It's for a total of 6, I guess. So now we have laminated pastry, and it's, you know what? It's very difficult for me to do it this way. So I'm turning it this way. So now we're gonna make croissant. And it's been in the fridge overnight. And we're gonna roll this out. And if I was using my old table, I don't have now, I would, it was in the fridge. Did I say freezer? No. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do this. So I'm rolling it out, but it needs to be 30 inches long. And this board is 26. So we're gonna roll it as much as we can. We don't have the thinness, but that puffing from the yeast has subsided because it was chilled. And we're gonna roll it as thin as we can get, and then we're gonna cut it in half and do it as a 2 15-inch long pieces. And we're gonna try to maintain the rectangular state of it, okay? So that's where you form it. If you have a long workbench, long island with marble or wood, doesn't really matter. Marbles stays cool. So we're just gonna keep going. I have a little worry about this because I didn't do all the stages of cooling and rolling and cooling and rolling. I rolled until rolled, turned and flipped and rolled, just because I was in a rush. And every flip and roll, after you do the 4, you're supposed to chill it and do the next 2, and I didn't. So I think I have some bleed between the layers, but I have the window open, it's still cold, and I'm going to measure it. And and I have 22. So 22 is 11. I'm gonna cut it in half so that I can use it on my short board. And the other half, goes back in the airtight bag and back on the, no, you know what? No bag. I'm just gonna put it on the small tray and keep the air off it, because you see it can get a little dry. And that's going back in the fridge. I think it's gonna be interesting. I'm going to do the flips again on this, just out of precaution that I didn't do it the right way the first time. And that's gonna give us another lamination, possibly the 7th. It's not like there's a rule, I mean, the rule of thumb is 6. So, but I want to get this to be, and I'm going to turn it over. You don't want extra flour, you just don't want it to stick. And this is going to have to be, this is going to end up being the strip for the first set of croissant. Okay, so it needs to be 15 inches. And it has to be long, 15 inches long. And it has to be, I think it has to be 8 wide or 7 wide. I'll look that up. But let's measure it now. Oh, where'd that thing go? I'll get another measuring strip. I don't know what happened to that one. Okay. That's really strange. Oh, it's on the floor. Don't worry, my floor's clean. Okay, so that's where it always goes. So that's 20 long. So that's good and long. But it's not thin enough. So we're gonna do it. We're gonna give it a, we need to have, I think it needs to be 5 or 6 wide. And then this has to go, see how it has a little, it hasn't snapped back. It's just started to snap back. So that's when you know you have to put it back in the fridge before cutting into the triangles. There's a lot of back and forth between rolling, fridge, chilling, rolling, chilling, rolling, chilling, and I don't need it to be longer, I just need it to be the right width. So that goes back. I need my giant tray. And that's going back into the fridge before I cut it into triangles. And I can tell right now, it's not actually thin enough, but we will make it that thin. All right, that's it for now. Back to my lovelies. My lovelies are anyone who watches these, because you're lovely. So it turns out it has to be 8 inches wide. And that makes sense, because it has to be at least 8 by 16. And it has to be thinner than this, so that you can roll up the pastries. So I'm going out from the center, and it's behaving. So it's springing back, which most Yeasted doughs will do. And I think I'm gonna have to put this on my neck, like a seamstress would. So I'm gonna cut it here at 16. All right. And I'm gonna measure the width. It's not quite, and this I'll save. I'll save for something else. I'll put it on the tray. But I do want this to be quite even, so I don't need that. And I want to do 8 inches wide. And I feel like the lamination is good, and the freezing overnight didn't ruin it. I didn't freeze it. I chilled in the fridge overnight. I was worried it would continue to rise, and then we wouldn't get any rise in the final croissant. So if we don't get any rise in the final croissant, I probably won't show you and I'll start all over again. Okay, so let's measure that. Still not 8. Still not 8. Keep going. Try to keep the flour to a minimum. You have a nice rectangle. I think it is starting to bounce back. So if it does that, then you have to refrigerate immediately, and we'll fix that at the other end. And I'll put it back on the large pan, and then I'll deal with the other half. Remember, the other half's in the fridge right now, and you don't need to see that. I'll just do this, replicate what I just did. Okay, so friends, we're on to the next stage of making croissants from your homemade pastry, your homemade puff pastry, yeasted and laminated puff pastry. We're gonna take our two 15-inch, well, they're 16-inch, right? I made them a little longer on purpose. And we're gonna stack them like that. And we're gonna measure. And we're gonna, I got the window open, it's still cool in here, no oven on. Okay, that's the wrong way. I feel like the second, okay, so we want them to be 15. So I'm gonna take my 15 by 8 exactly, because we want our croissants to be perfect. So let's stretch that out. And I'm just gonna cut the top off here. And I put one packet over the other because I don't have a long marble table. If you have a lovely marble island, you could do the entire 30 inches in one go. So now we need to get put this to this edge so it's perfect. And then we're gonna mark 15 with our pizza wheel. I have a pastry cutter, but my pastry cutter is fluted. And we don't flute. No fluting. Okay, so all this is extra. Don't worry, the same amount of dough is in each piece. The same amount of lamination. See, I don't know if you can see that, but there's 729, possibly more, layers of butter and pastry. And now we're gonna measure 8. Okay, so neither of these are 8. So luckily they've been chilled and I can roll them to 8. They shrunk a bit in the refrigerator. So we're gonna roll them to 8. This one was totally 8 before it went in, but that's why you chill it. Okay, let's measure again. 7.5. Not good enough. Not good enough. Okay. I'm gonna say, I think I can use this for now. That's 8. That's almost 8. That's 7 3/4. Okay. Keep going. And make it 8. You can make it a little wider than 8 because we're gonna cut it off. Okay. So this one is super thin. because I cut a big chunk off when I spread it out. And let's put it on top and pull it out. Put it, dust it a bit. And then I got 7.5, I got 8, I got 8, I've got 7.5, and I have 8. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm not gonna roll them together. I'm going to use 7.5, okay? And then we start marking. We want 4.5. We want to mark our triangles. 4.5, 4.5. And we're going to turn this around and we're going to mark 4.5, which is going to make a triangle, see? And 4.5 and 4.5. And then we're going to make our triangles. This one should get another 4.5, which is actually perfect. So you get a 4.5 on the end. And you get a 4.5. How's that gonna work? Okay, so we get, this is a 4.5. Like that. And then this is a 4.5. And listen, that's gonna mean I lose some pastry on this end, but I'm not worried. Okay, so that means I have to cut off, and I can reuse this extra for something else, maybe a Danish. All right, so that's 4 triangles. This is a 4.5. And this is a 4.5. All right, are you following me? And that's 4.5. So you get this kind of extra, which we'll use because it took a lot of effort to make yeasted puff pastry, and I'll make Danishes out. So now you have, oh, we need our brush. No extra flour. So we should have quite a few of these. And I'm going to separate them all and chill them again after I make the 1-inch mark on the bottoms, okay? I have a device that does this, but I lost it. And mine cost $10 at the Sally Ann or whatever it's called. And there was we do a 1-inch mark at the bottom, halfway. That was a little long, but this is so we can stretch it. Oh, that's a 2. Is that a twofer? No, it's just a fat one. Okay. So, I don't know. How many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. So we have a dozen. And we're gonna, I feel like these should be thinner, but we'll see. And we're gonna chill them again before rolling. And after we roll them, we're gonna turn on the oven and we'll be making them rise rolled. Okay, so that's one tray. That's another tray. I'm gonna make a nice dozen. I'm supposed to get 20 out of this, but you can see how thick these are. I don't know, that might just make them better. I don't know, we'll see. Okay, but we don't want them to be rising before we roll them. So that's the thing that's the reason we're gonna chill it again. And these are going in the freezer because they definitely cannot rise anymore or we'll be in trouble. All right, into the freezer for 15 minutes. You see all that? Okay, good. Hey, my lovelies, we're getting into the last stretch of making croissants after having done all that work to make your own yeasted, laminated puff pastry. So here's the deal. These have been in the freezer for 15 minutes, so they can be handled without a worry. So we have these cuts. We're stretching them out. We're gonna hold, and we're gonna pull the top. And it should be around 7 inches. Where's my, oh, well, that's 8. So basically, you take the bottom here and roll, and roll, and roll, and roll. Did you see how, I don't know if you can see it, but I took the split out part and I'm holding and I'm rolling and I'm gonna leave the top, this piece, the top of the triangle on the bottom, and then we're gonna pinch this down, okay? So that's the shape of the basic, that's the shape of a croissant. So we'll do it again. I'm gonna flip this out, pin it down, and then roll. Okay, these are really cold, which is great. And we're gonna keep doing this. I don't know if you need to see me doing all of them, but there's your kind of cigar. I don't know if you can see it. And then you, of course, make the croissant, and then you have to pinch the bottoms. Okay, and they should only be around, they should be about 2, and that piece needs to be on the bottom because it won't stick by itself. And so we gotta have 2 inches between them. And I've got one tray here, and I'll do it again. Turn the heat on to 400, if I can. Because this actually really does take a high heat to get to the right. Stop talking to me. It's not a smart oven, but it's dumb enough to tell me dumb things. Anyway, so we pinch the edges, we got them out 2 inches from each other. I have this tray to do, and then I have the other trays in the fridge, and put it back. I took it out of the freezer, and we're just gonna keep this going, and I'm going to show you what I do next. Okay, so I've rolled up. I've got the temperature rising of the oven to 400 so that we'll get a nice warm environment here. I'll probably turn off this, well, I'll leave that fan on. And I have my croissants, and I have some damp, these are damp, clean tea towels. I have my broadside towel, and I have the other 6 here. And now they have to rise again. And remember, they were chilled for 15 minutes in the freezer, not frozen, but chilled so I could handle them. And now that means that it could take up to an hour and a half for them to rise and be ready for the egg wash. Hey y'all, so it's been almost an hour and a half. So these have puffed up, I guess. It's hard for me to tell, but when you touch them, they're very soft. So that is a good sign. So I have 2 eggs and 2 tablespoons of water for the wash. And we're going to egg wash all the visible parts. And the oven's at 400. And, oh, I can tell this is rised nicely. They're not all super crescent shaped, but I'm not gonna bother trying to reshape them because that could deflate the gases that the yeast has provided. Remember, we don't just have gas from the yeast trapped inside. We have at least 729 layers of butter from making our own puff pastry package. Also making, which is for what you call lamination. And this lamination happened to include yeast. And that's the last one. And then what we're going to do is we have the racks in the top and lower third. Okay. And these will be a total of 20 minutes, possibly 25 at 400, but at 10 minutes, we'll not only change the orientation, but we'll change which one's on top, which is on the bottom. These big fat ones will go on top. Alright. And these are going on the bottom. See you in 20 to 25 minutes. Okay, friends, I checked and I kept them in longer than 20 minutes. They've been for 27 minutes, rotating and shifting levels. And after the first 10 minutes, I think they look great. Look how puffy and delicious are my homemade croissants with my homemade puff pastry.